Okay, so the late term project will be a progression of your imbue cabin that you've been working on, essentially, with a few design changes being added. Okay, so I'll let you read through this to, you'll obviously be able to read through this to get all the specifics. But essentially, you're going to, number one, have to complete the shell of the imbue cabin. So you want to have the main level, and we're going to learn how to do roofs and ceilings. So you'll have the roofs and the ceilings and the main level, and you're going to have, floors and doors and windows and all that good stuff in the cabin. So in addition to all of that, and I don't mind if you start doing this now and submitting these changes for assignment since we're working on this project currently, but the late term project will be to make some changes to this project. Okay, so things that you're going to see, you're going to add 3 feet to this bedroom over here. All right, so what that means is, oops, let's see if I can zoom in there a little bit. I don't know what that grid says. But likely what you'll end up doing is taking between grid 6 and 7 and adding 3 feet. Okay, so that's one thing you're going to be doing. You're going to add more windows and move this wall down. So this south wall is going to be moved out 4 feet. Okay, so the whole project is going to get bigger to the south by 4 feet. This entire building footprint, it's going to look identical, right? Except for it's going to be larger. You're going to add 3 feet here. It's going to be identical, but you're just going to pull it out 3 feet. Okay. So adding 3 feet to the east side, adding 4 feet to the south side. You're going to redesign the furniture so that it fits within the new space, the extra space that you have, right? So that means you have a kitchen here. You're going to kind of redesign the furniture a little bit so that with that added, square footage, it all sort of works. When we learn stairs, you're going to add stairs here. So that added 4 feet is really kind of an addition to be able to add some stairs into your project here, okay? And part of this late term project will be to add a basement. So currently this project doesn't have a basement, but you will add one for your late term project, okay? So you'll make those changes to the imbue cabin. I'll let you read through all of the specifics. And then in addition to that, you are going to be adding a garage to this project. Ooh, it looks like the photo's gone. Hold on one second. Let me see if I can get it back. Let's see here. Oh. Look, oh, it's slowly coming. Look at that. Maybe it's just the network here again. That's no good. So the image is there, it looks like. It just takes a second to load, so I'm hoping that I'll just let it leave things as is and let it load. Hopefully on your computers it will load a little bit better. But so the first portion of this assignment will be to make those changes, and then you're going to add a garage, okay? You're going to create your garage in the same file as your imbue cabin. It needs to have all of the correct architectural elements that a real garage would need, right? So it's going to need a floor and exterior walls and a roof and ceiling and all that good stuff, which we'll talk about. We'll continue to talk about. Your garage, here it is right here. Okay, it's going to look like this. So I thought the easiest way was likely just to sketch this. But I want it to be about 20 feet away from the main house. And here are the dimensions, 24 foot by 30 foot. Okay, this is what the roof is going to look like. And we'll learn how to do roofs here pretty quick. Okay, the roof is going to slope down this direction. And this is what your wall system is going to look like. Okay. Let's see here. You're going to have to create a lot of sheets to print all of these drawings that you're going to create for your late term project. So you'll have a cover sheet, a main level floor plan, a basement level floor plan because you're going to add a basement to your imbue cabin. You're going to have a roof plan. You're going to have a reflected ceiling plan, which we'll talk about today. And then you're going to have a sheet for the garage floor plan, the garage reflected ceiling plan, enlarged floor plan of the stair in the cabin, enlarged floor plan of both bathroom areas, or both of the bathroom areas on the main level, and then all 4 exterior elevations of both the house and the garage. Okay. Sounds daunting, I'm sure. The nice thing is that all of your assignments for the next few weeks are going to be tuned towards this. So you won't really have any extra work on top of working on this late term project. So for example, today we'll be talking about ceilings. You'll add ceilings into your cabin, which will then translate into your late term project. Okay. Any questions so far about this? Okay. I think what I'll do too is, I haven't done this before, but I think I'll post an example of maybe a student project from last semester, so you can kind of see what other people have done, essentially. And I do have a few videos of that are already created that I'll post to your playlist on YouTube of me drafting part of this in class. Okay. I don't know if we'll have time to do that, because I want to get through as much curriculum as possible before I have to go on maternity leave. But I will post those because I had them for last semester. So I think we drafted the garage in class, actually, and I think we drafted the roof in class last semester. And so I'll post those so that you can view those and as you're working on this. Okay. Now with all of these things, so you're going to have all of these views that are generated, of course. You're going to put your views on sheets. You're going to have to put a little bit of annotation on all of these sheets. So I want room names and numbers, window tags, door tags, add drawing dimensions as best you can, right? So here's a list of all of the different things that you'll want to tag. I want you to post your Revit model and a PDF, and we're going to print, I don't think we need to do a full-size set. I think we're going to do print one. Let's do 11 by 17. 11 by 17 inch set and turn it in. You can print those here. There you go. Here are things that I look for while grading. Okay. And it's due, I'll have it due after spring break, so March 25th. So I won't probably be in class after that, but I will be grading and supervising your class still after that. So I'll be the one who's grading it. Any questions on anything so far? Okay, I'll let you read through it. Like I said, I have some videos that I'll post for you, but I'll let you read through it and kind of get used to it. And if you have any questions, just let me know. So that is published. Okay, let's go back to our modules here. Any questions on floors? Did floors make sense last week? Not terrible, hopefully. Okay. We're going to talk about ceilings today, and I also kind of like to touch on components today. So ceilings, components, and maybe I'll touch on one other thing with regards to floors, just to kind of jog your memory as you now, start thinking about moving towards your late term project. So while I do that, I think I'm going to download our ceilings portion of our booklet here, since I feel like our network is fairly slow. There we go. All right. I'm gonna flip back over to a section of our building here, okay? And we have a floor here, right? We have a main level floor, and we drew that in floor plan view. I'm gonna go back to main level floor plan view. We drew that using the floor tool, right? And just as a kind of reminder, we're going to create architectural floors when we generate floors in Revit. So I'm going to click on that, and when we enter sketch mode, it looks like this. And we talked about how to draw the boundary of a floor and how to create openings in a floor and all that good stuff, right? And sort of where to look when you're deciding where the floor is going to interact with the wall, right? You want to think about that a little bit. Even if you don't get it quite correct, think about it. We talked about floor assemblies being just like wall assemblies, right? So they are defined just like a wall. They're a horizontal wall, essentially. And so I'm going to tab here, select my floor. If I wanted to create a new floor, I would come over here to edit type. I would edit type, I would go into, duplicate, rename, hit edit, and I would edit my assembly here. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing with a floor that we would with a wall, essentially. I'm going to cancel out of this right here. One sort of, working methodology that I talked about with regards to floors was the idea that I found over the years, creating one big floor that encompasses the entire space that you're drawing, right, is a good idea. So in essence, a structural floor. And then that will have all kind of the bare bones of structure contained within its assembly. And then having a finished floor on top of that is a good idea, right? So really, when you are drawing your floors, you're working professionally, whatever, right? You're going to draw your structural floor, and then you are going to draw your finished floor on top of that, okay? And we do that so that you don't have a bunch of little pieces of floor all over the place for the structural floor. You have one cohesive slab, and that seems to function very well. And then you can change the finish using those individual finished pieces, okay? So that seems to work pretty well. All right, let's talk about components a little bit with regards to floors, okay? I want to talk about components with regards to floors and ceilings today because we're going to be starting to work on ceilings today. But I do want to remind you, when I use the term component, it is the same, definition as the term family, all right? If you've used AutoCAD, families, components, they're almost identical to the idea of a block, okay? And so a component is a collection of items that represent something. So for example, when I pop into 3D, a door is considered a family, a window is considered a family, right? Any type of furniture or fixture or anything that's been brought into your Revit model that is not architecture is going to really be considered a family, okay? So families or components, I'm going to look here on my architecture tab. Families/components, same thing. I'll use either term and they mean the same thing. Those are accessed through the component icon right here. And I'm going to drop down and I have place a component. Okay, so the shortcut for this is CM. So I can keyboard shortcut CM. If I click on place a component, all right, I can place different components in different views. I can place them in elevation. I can place them in floor plan, right? Section, sometimes elevation, depending on what the component is. But we have several different types of components that are built into the Revit interface. So when I click on component, I can use my drop down and you see that we have a desk and who picks these out, right? Parking stalls are the kind of the default family in Revit. A tree. You couldn't live without a handrail support, right? That's a pretty important family in Revit. They don't have any toilets or, chairs or anything, but they've got a metal support for a stair. Anyway, so to use a component, I'm going to click on the one I want to use, okay, and then I'm going to place it. Now, there are a couple of different types of components in Revit. Some components are generically defined. So like this desk is a pretty generic type component, which means it's not loyal to any component in Revit. It's not necessary to have a wall to place it or a floor to place it or, some other architectural component to place it, okay? I could place it in space and it would work just fine. Click, and there's my desk. Okay, it's out there in space, but there's my desk. I go to my main level. Oh, it's past my crop boundary, so I can't really see it out there. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Do not crop. Oh, there's my desk way out there. Okay. So that desk, it's a piece of furniture. It's pretty generically based, meaning I can place it anywhere in Revit and it will usually work. Okay. Now, there are other types of components that are very well defined and they are meant to go in other objects, to be hosted, like a door. It's a family, right? Slash component. And a door, when I go to the door command, I can't place doors. I'm clicking out here. I can't place doors anywhere except where a wall exists. Click, there's my door. Okay. So we have very generically based families, and we have some that are very well defined. Okay. Now, if I want to find a family or a component that does not exist currently in my Revit model, I can go to place a component, and if the component that I want doesn't exist here, I need to go and load it. Okay, this is the same process that you follow when you're trying to go and load a door or a window. All right, so you already know the process. You maybe just didn't know that it applied to other components in Revit. So when I come over here, I can see when I'm in the component command, load family is one of my options. I can click on load family, and I have all of these different categories of items that I can load into my project. So for example, I can go to furniture, and I could choose a mirror. Let's choose a table. Round table, dining round with chairs. Okay, I want that one. I'm going to hit open. And I just loaded that family. Okay, now I need to go back to architecture and reinitiate the component command, but now that family is available in my properties dialog box here. So I can grab it, I can click, and I can place it, and now I have a lovely little table in my dining room there. Okay. If I'm not in the component command and I still want to load a component, go find one and use it because I know that it's coming, I can go to insert, I can come over here to load family, and I'm brought back into the Revit library. Okay, so there's a lot in the Revit library. One folder that I'm just going to show you, specialty equipment. This is where a lot of kind of the kind of household items are present. If you go to domestic, you'll see that we have a kitchenette, we have a small kitchenette, you get a little preview over here of it, mid-range, cooktops, right? So all of this stuff, it's in kind of a weird spot under specialties. But there are all of the different items. If I go to high end, ooh, a coffee system. Fancy, fancy. But here's, hood and a, built-in oven and all these great things. Okay. So you have a lot of different options. Let's see if we can find one that's wall defined. Oven, built-in, convection, steam, hood, wall. Okay. So if I click on hood, wall, and I hit open, okay, and I go to architecture and I go to component, this is really wanting to kind of host to a wall because it has a wall hood defined in there. Okay, not to say that it won't host to other items, but I'll find a wall. Let's find a wall. This is maybe our kitchen, right? If I want it to go on this wall, I can use the space bar to rotate it. Space bar, space bar, space bar, and I want to place it where my cursor is. For example, this is not the right way to put it. It would be backwards. I could click and place it, and there's my little vent hood. Okay. I'm going to pop into 3D, or I could place an interior elevation in there to view this and then get out of the view, but I'm going to go into 3D, and I want to look at that range hood. Oh, it's on the floor, which is not correct. Okay, so let's look at some of the properties of this range hood. And these properties, you'll have properties associated with most components in Revit, but they will be specific to the component you're using. So for example, a range hood has a height and a level associated with it, right? Table and chairs have a level associated with it. Maybe light fixtures have a ceiling associated with it. But this range hood here, you can see that it is defined by level 1, main level. It's sitting on the floor because the offset is set to 0. This is kind of like a base offset for a wall. If I change this to something like 5 foot, enter, it pops up 5 feet and it's where it needs to be. Okay. 6 foot, enter. There we go. If I click on it, you see we have some other properties like chase height, which is likely this right here. So if you want this chase to go up all the way to the roof, well, it won't let you do the roof, but you can pick a dimension. Let's say 6 foot, enter. It makes that longer so that the duct actually would engage the ceiling, right? And what's nice about that is now I'm going to go back to my main level. I have my vent hood here, right? If I created an interior elevation view, right, by going to View, Elevation, Interior Elevation, I pointed my interior elevation at that wall. Click, click. You can see that geometry is there, right, which is really nice. So families, you can get millwork, you can get countertops, you can get sinks, you can get stoves, you can get, you know, refrigerators, and all of those things are seen in elevation view. They're also seen in floor plan view. Any camera views that you decide to make, they're all there. All right. Okay, if you need a component and it's not in the Revit library, right? So I go to Insert, Load Family, and I'm looking for something in here and it's just not there, okay? Where do we go to find components slash families that are not here? Well, we go, of course, to the internet, right? So I can go to Google, and most major manufacturers have all of the whatever they sell or spec, right? Furniture, appliances, windows and doors, different things like that. They have them all online. Okay, so for example, I'm going to go to a website called coalesce.com. Okay, it's a furniture manufacturer. And I know that they have a bunch of furniture, and they have a bunch of furniture that I like, right? Or you can go to an appliance company or Steelcase or whatever. And I can go to Design Resources. And sometimes you have to search around, but I think, let's see, Product Resources and Symbols. That sounds promising. And if I go to whatever I'm looking for, like, let's go to, I want to find a couch. Lounge seating. There we go. I click on lounge seating and it says, hey, that's great. Look, we have this lounge seating and we have PDFs of it. We have a quick view where you can look at the specs for it. We also have, let's see. Oh, I was thinking maybe this would be where we have our Revit. Oh yeah, Revit families. Revit overview, AutoCAD, right? So I click on Revit families and immediately I get a zip file downloading with the Revit families. Okay. So I can load a family from the actual Revit interface, right? I can go to Insert, load a family from there. That is contingent upon the fact that I already have it on my computer or it's in the Revit library. I can also, for example, you know, this is downloading. It might take a minute. Go and I can find Revit pieces on the internet, right? And I can download them, I can open them, and they open in a secondary Revit interface, and I can load them into the project. We'll let that download for a minute, and then we'll go over that. Okay. So that's how you're going to get components into your project. You're going to either use the ones that are already in there, or you're going to go and you're going to download them or load them from your computer. Okay. And again, some things are going to be generically defined where you can kind of place them wherever and they don't have kind of a specific item they need to be hosted onto. But then there are going to be things that actually do need to be hosted onto specific items, right? So there may be things that need to be hosted to a wall or to a roof or to a floor or to a ceiling. Okay, so if something's not working, you're not being allowed to place it somewhere, it's likely the definition is off. Okay. All right. While that's downloading, there was one other thing I wanted to show you about floors. I want to create a new level because you're going to be creating a basement level for this project. Let me go to like my north elevation here. Oh, I do have my basement level created. Okay. So I do have a basement level created here. It's at -10 feet from my main level. And I want to create, I'm going to just draw a floor here for you guys so that you kind of know how to do that. I'm going to go to my basement level. Okay, I want to show you one visual thing that can sort of help you draw items from one level to the next. Okay, so I want to draw a floor in my basement, and I don't have basement walls yet, which we'll talk about here soon. But I do want to draw a basement floor, but I don't really know where my upper floor is to draw that. Okay. One thing I want to show you, another visual setting, is called an underlay. All right. So while I'm in this floor plan and I can't see what I want to see, I'm going to come over here to my properties dialog box, and I'm going to make sure that I don't have anything selected. Okay. So if I have something selected like a grid, this will throw it off. So I'm going to hit escape. I'm going to clear out of everything. And then I'm going to come over here to my properties dialog box, and I am going to come here to my underlay option. Right? There's a little inherent tool palette here. And you'll see that it says base level, none, top level, and underlay orientation. So right now I'm looking at my basement floor plan and I can't see anything above it and I can't see anything below it. If I wanted to get a ghosted view of the upper level so I could see where things were, I could choose underlay, and I want to see the main level, and I get a ghosting of the main level appearing. Okay. Yep.
So my grid's not showing up on my basement level. Why would that be?
And it's showing up on your main level?
And through and
It could be. So if you click on it, does it say 3D right there?
if there's nothing on the basement level, I have it created, but there's nothing on it at all.
Go back to your main level. So go to your main level and click on one of your grids and see if this says 3D.
It does.
Does it say it on both ends?
Yeah.
Let's go back. So go back to your basement, and maybe they're just turned off. Like choose this little reveal hidden elements there. Do you see them? No? Let me come over and take them.
It's fine. It's fine. I can figure it out.
I'll come over. Let me finish.
Easy answer, but if they're not, I can figure it out later.
Okay, I'll come over when we're done here, and we'll take a quick peek. Weird things that happen in Revit, right? It's either something visual is just turned off, right? Because they're obviously there and defined, right? Or again, the other thing I suspect is that the grids are only existing in a 2D environment instead of a 3D. But I'll come look if you can't get it worked out. All right, the other thing you could try doing is deleting your basement level and regenerating it, recreating it. Something could have been thrown off when you did that. All right, so we have our grids here, right? We have our basement. This is our basement level. I'm in my basement level. And I've just ghosted in my upper level, right? And I've done that using an underlay. And you can use an underlay in any view. And it brings it in so you can see it, right? But it doesn't allow you to engage with it. Now, the good and bad thing about an underlay is that it is a ghosting. It doesn't mean those elements exist in the floor plan you're looking at, but if you leave it turned on, it will print. Okay, so before you go to print, you should go back to none and make sure it gets turned back off. Okay, but I'm going to use it here, main level. I'm going to use it just to draw a floor for you guys. Okay, so I'm going to go back to architecture. I'm going to come over here to floor. We're in the basement, and so I think I want to create a concrete slab. Let's see if there's one here. I don't have one here. So I'm just going to choose this generic floor, hit edit type, duplicate, concrete slab. We'll do a 4-inch concrete slab. Whoops, 4 inches. Okay. I'm going to edit the structure, and I'll change my material to concrete, cast in place gray concrete. Okay, we'll give it a 4-inch thickness. Okay, okay. I just created a new floor type just like I would a wall type, right? There it is. And I'm going to draw the outline of my floor slab. So just to be simple, I will follow the outline of my floor here, or my floor plan, my main level floor plan. Because I am on my basement level, Revit is just, it's assuming that this floor needs to be hosted at the basement. So I'm going to hit finish here. And I have my floor. If I look at my section here, click, click, of course I always do that. Oh, looks like it's outside my crop boundary, so I'm going to turn my crop boundary on, drag my crop boundary down. Rebecca, that might be what is happening too. Maybe your crop boundary is not engaging it. Sometimes that happens. That happens with elevations a lot. If the boundary doesn't go down to that level, the elevation won't work sometimes. Okay, so now I can see that I have a floor, right, in my basement, and the top of that floor is aligning with the top of my basement level. Okay. We're going to talk about how to create foundation walls pretty soon here, not just yet, but pretty soon, so you can do your project. But they're a little bit different than upper level walls. Okay. Now what's nice about this is that I have kind of the floor plate for my basement level established, right? And when we learn about stairs, my stairs will be able to go from my upper level down to my basement level. Okay. Now I'm going to turn my underlay off. None. Apply. And there's my floor. Okay. Any questions about components or floors? One other thing I just want to bring up with the idea of a component, I'm going to go back to my main level here, okay, is that they, again, function like anything else in Revit. If I click on this, all right, and I want to create a new type of this, I can hit Edit Type. I can duplicate, give it a new name. Maybe instead of a 3-foot diameter, I want a 4-foot diameter, so 48 inches. Okay. And I can change some of these inherent properties that are associated with this table to make a new type of component, right? So instead of this being a 3-foot diameter, I can make it a 4-foot diameter, hit OK, and now it's a 4-foot diameter. And generally, I say this generally because usually they work, the way that these families are created is that they're parametric in nature, right? Which means that everything within this family that's been created has a relationship with one another. So I can take this family, make a duplicate of it, alter the diameter of the table, right? And when the table gets larger, the chairs slide out just a little bit to engage with it, right? If I change the height, the chairs get shorter or taller to accommodate the height of the table, okay? So I click on this, I can hit Edit Type, and I can change any of these different properties of the table, and it will all work and function, right? Unless you make a gigantic change, like making the table 100 feet tall, right? It may not work very well. Let's see if our little Coalesce table has downloaded. It has. Okay, so I'm going to open up. There's the family that I had downloaded online, right? I'm going to extract it from its little zip file. There it is, okay? These files, you see how it says RFA on the little Revit icon, and also we have RFA here, okay? That means it's a Revit family. That's different than our RVT file that we're working in. To load these into my current project, I can do two things. I can go into my Revit interface, I can go to Insert, Load Family, and I could browse to that Downloads folder. Downloads, Families, pick one, hit Open. Okay, I just loaded that. I can go now to Architecture, Component. There's my little, little pillow arm, part of it, and I could place it. Okay. Another way that I could load this in is I can actually open up the family. Let's open up the bench. Click, click. Upgrade the model. And it will open in its own family editor, essentially. I'm going to go into a 3D view to look at it. But it looks like that, right? There's a good full-time job with Revit skills, right? So somebody working just modeling all these magical little pieces of furniture in Revit. So somebody built this family, right? They created all of these pieces. These are extrusions and meshes and different types of geometry created in here. We've got little casters, or not casters, but just little, everything is a piece, essentially. If I go into my reference level, which is the floor plan, this is really kind of showing, even if you don't know what it means, this is really showing all of the relationships between the objects in this family. So I can see, without kind of, this one's pretty complicated, without talking about everything, essentially all of these dimensions and all of these reference planes, this is what allows you to say, hey, I want to make it, instead of 5 feet long, 6 feet long, and have everything flex and move to be proportionate when you do that, right? All these things are establishing relationships within this piece of furniture. So I've opened this up. I've just double clicked on it to load this into my Revit interface now. I can choose load into project and close. I don't want to save the original, but I want it to load into the project I have open. So it's just loaded that in. I can click, I can place. There it is. It looks a little different, than what was in there. And I've got my cute little table in there, or ottoman, whatever that is, right? And it's 40 inches deep, 40 inches wide, right? I could drop down and see if there's any other dimensions, which there are. 20 by 60. 30 by 60. And if there's one that I don't have here that I need, I can hit edit type. I can duplicate. Let's do 30 by 72 wide. Okay. And we'll make this 72. Oh, something's not quite working. So I made it wider. Something is a little off in this one, but you can do that essentially. Okay. So I can load components and families from the Revit library standard. I can load families into my Revit project from the internet, right? If, one of your colleagues here has some great families that they use all the time, I don't mind you sharing families. Very rarely do I ever create any of my own families. I think that there's enough out there now in the Revit world that usually I can find what I need. There's just so much out there, and it didn't used to be that way. I used to have to create more things than I do now, but usually I can find what I need, or I can find something very similar to what I need, and I can alter it. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay. Well, let's switch gears a little bit and let's talk about ceilings. Hold on one second. Let me get this going here. Okay. All right. Okay, let's talk about ceilings now. I'm going to go back to my main level here, and we're going to talk about ceilings. And there's two ways to really think about ceilings in Revit, okay? And one is to sort of build your ceiling in to your floor system, and the other is to create, really to create a formal ceiling, okay? So one thing I want to point out here is that we have our floor plans here, okay? Every time you create a new floor plan using a level, you get a corresponding ceiling plan, okay? Now, main level, basement, roof, right? Top of wall. We don't have any ceiling plans for these three because they're copies of main level, all right? But with that said, I could go to my view tab, I could go to plan views, I could choose reflected ceiling plan to create a reflected ceiling plan. And I could choose one of these and create another reflected ceiling plan that then corresponded to one of these, okay? I could do that. I could also right click and I could duplicate with detailing, and I could create another reflected ceiling plan that direction, okay? So even though a new ceiling plan is not generated every time I copy or duplicate one of these floor plates up here, one is generated when I create a new level, okay? So, and this is kind of a big source of, I think, confusion in Revit, actually. I think that if you, when you're working through Revit, my workflow is to kind of close up ceiling plans unless I'm actually working in them, because it's very easy to say, oh, main level, yeah. And you click on main level and you're like, oh, well, it looks like the main level, but I have some weird visual things happening. I'm not quite sure what's going on, right? So you change a few things and do this and that. Unknowing that you're kind of in the wrong place, essentially, right? Okay, so the way that a ceiling plan works, I'm going to talk about view range, okay? This is what our Revit interface, this is how it's defined visually, right? Meaning we have kind of our main field of vision, right? Here's a view of our floor plan. Here's our cut line. That red line is our cut plane, okay? We generally, when we have a floor plan, we look from our cut plane down, right? So our floor plate is cut at 4 foot, and for a floor plate, we view it down, okay? With a ceiling plan, it's opposite, all right? We look from our floor plate up with a ceiling plan, and our cut is at 7'6". Okay, so we're looking probably somewhere in the range of, you know, maybe even above that window, right? In this range, up. Okay, so that's how a reflected ceiling plan works. Instead of looking from your cut down, like a floor plan, you look from your cut up. And instead of the cut being from 4 foot looking down, it is from 7'6" looking up. Okay. Okay. Any questions about that so far? Okay. I only say that because it's kind of, I mean, it's not a complicated topic, but even still, sometimes when I get into a ceiling plan, I have to think about it. I have to think, okay, this is not showing because we're looking at 7 foot and we're looking up, right? You can go through your visual checklist down here and you can change the scale, you can change the coarseness of it, you know, you can make it look the way it needs to, but just know that anything that we are viewing here is from 7'6" up, okay? In general, a ceiling plan, what's going to be shown on a ceiling plan is your ceiling equipment, lights, and your ceiling material, right? So you're going to see things like gypsum board patterns, or like in this room, our ceiling plan would look like the ceiling grid, right? We would see these acoustic tiles, we would see the lights, we would see the projector, we would see the Wi-Fi thing, you know, this little connector on the ceiling. Those are going to be things that we see on the ceiling, right? As far as the architectural template goes, you're not really going to want to be seeing doors. You're just going to want to see the header above a door. So we're going to do a couple of different visual things to turn our ceilings on, and different things in our ceiling on and off. And then we're going to add some ceilings, okay? Let's see here. Sorry guys, I need to just run and get a tissue here real quick. Okay, sorry, I just need to run and get a tissue real quick. Did you get your grids working? No? Okay. I'll come over and take a look. Your grids or your level? Yeah, I think I would probably start there, delete your level, and then redo it. Just delete it and see what happens, but don't hit save. And then if it doesn't work, you can hit undo and just go back to where you were. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Okay. All right, so let's talk about adding ceiling. Okay, so if I look in a sectional view, and I'm going to look at my main level and WT window tile so I can see my, oops, nope, not my main level. I wanted to open up my ceiling level here. Oh, good morning. Main level ceiling plan, WT window tile. Here's my ceiling plan, and then here is my section, okay? So right now, if I am in my main level and I'm looking at my ceiling plan, this is what I'm looking at, and it is actually looking, I'm looking at 7'6". These must be 8-foot tall doors. So I'm looking probably somewhere in the range of here upwards, okay? So when I want to create my ceiling, just to see, so we won't all be surprised, right? My ceiling is going to appear somewhere in this range. Ceilings are really easy to generate. I'm going to go to my architecture tab here. You're going to notice that under the build tab we have ceilings, okay? If I click on ceiling, I have two options to generate ceilings. I have an auto sketch and I have a sketch, okay? With auto sketch or auto ceiling, if I hover inside of a boundary, click, you notice there it plays to ceiling. Okay, let me hit undo. I go to ceiling, auto ceiling, I hover, I click, and it plays to ceiling right there. Okay, now it placed my ceiling, it defaults generally to an offset of 8 feet above the level that you are currently in. Okay, so this created an acoustic 2x4 ceiling tile 8 feet above the main level. All right, that's how it's working. Now if I come over here in this big area, click, I place another ceiling, and you see another ceiling happening right there. Okay, I can click on this ceiling, and I can change the height of it to 9 feet. Enter. There we go. All right, pretty easy. 9 foot, enter. There we go. Okay, I can click on this ceiling and I can change the type. So if I click on it, I use my drop down, I change it to gypboard on metal stud. There we go. Click. Gypboard on metal stud. Click. There we go. Okay. Now, what's nice about this is that this is an actual defined ceiling. Okay. So right now I'm in my my ceiling plan, and if I wanted to add lights to my ceiling, I could. Okay. So lights are components. I can come up to component, place a component. And I don't think I have any lights loaded in here, so I'm going to have to choose, I'm going to have to load some in. Load family. Oh boy. Let's see if I can get back to my, oh boy. It didn't remember my location of my Revit library. That's a problem. Load family. Well, I'm going to have to look for that now. Hold on, let me find the path. The path to Revit family library. I don't remember where that's at. Okay. It's kind of odd it didn't jump back to there. Okay, let's see. Program data, Autodesk Revit 2018 library. So program data. So if you ever lose your library like I just did, I'm going to go to insert, load family. It looks like we'll go to my C drive first, program data. Or no, let's see. Program files likely. Autodesk Revit 2019. And if we're lucky, Revit 2019. No. Oh boy. All right, well, we don't have it here. Hold on 1 second. Data. Let's go this route and see if I can find it. If not, I'll have to research further. C, view, hidden items. There we go. Program data, Autodesk, Revit 29. Oop, not that one. Revit. Nope. Revit 2019. Ah, it's our lucky day today. Okay, so probably US Imperial. I'm gonna Control C, copy that path right there so I can get back to it. Load family. I don't feel like that needed to be that difficult, right? Program data, Autodesk. Well, I can't even copy it in there. Revit 2019, libraries. There we go. All right, so lighting is in your Revit library. Lighting, click, click. Architectural, click, click. Let's do internal. And let's choose a flat, round ceiling light. I'm going to hit open. Okay. I can go now to architecture component. And that ceiling light, okay, click, click. Look at that. Look how nice and lovely they appear. Maybe we can get another one to, oop, there we go. There's another one right there. Okay. Let's insert another light. I'm going to go to insert, load family. I want to find a troffer light. There we go. There we go. That's what I want. Okay. Now component, CM, I'm going to keyboard shortcut it, CM. Click. I have barely enough room to place it. There's my troffer light, like these lights in here. Okay. Now, you'll notice that when maybe Revit 2019 has made it a little bit easier. Oh no, there's a ceiling in here. Okay, so wherever I have a ceiling, you notice I click, 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 and I can place those. There's my ceiling. 1, 2, 3, 4, my lights. But if I do CM component, and it remembers my troffer light, if I'm over here in my other space without a ceiling, click, 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 it's not allowing me to place it, right? It's wanting to come over here where there's an actual ceiling defined, okay? So if this starts to happen, it's like a door or window, you need something to host that object into, okay? So my explanation, I'm just gonna explain this, right? And we've talked about why this is happening, so I think you know that, but there's always a debate. Do I take my floor, right? Let's talk about a residence. Do I take my floor, and when I build my floor assembly, if there's a main level and a basement, I create my main level structure, I put the finished floor on top of it, right? And then to create my ceiling, which is the bottom side of my floor, do I just add gypsum board to that assembly? And then gypsum board shows up in my basement as my ceiling. Great, right? That's pretty easy. And it's a valid way of thinking about it, right? But the problem you're gonna run into with that is that you're creating a floor with gypsum board on the bottom. You're not creating an actual ceiling. And so the problem you may run into is that your lights won't host into that floor, right? Some will, if you can find generic ones, but others, like these predefined Revit ones, a lot of them won't. Okay, so it's tempting to say, well, to keep things simple, I'm just gonna add gypsum board to the bottom of my floor. Great, we're done. But then when you go to add lights, it doesn't work and you're trying to figure out what's going on, right? So I know it's a pain in the neck. It's kind of an extra step. You have to add something else into your Revit project, but I would always err on the side of, we'll say, caution, because I like things to work the first time, and I like to build my ceiling into my model, okay? So when I'm generating ceilings in Revit, I always create an actual ceiling. I don't place, gypsum board on the bottom side of a floor type, okay? So we see our lights being hosted in here. I showed you how to create a very simple ceiling, right? But what happens if I want to, I'll show you how to use the second type of ceiling command. I'm going to go to architecture, ceiling. I like the automatic ceiling command. It seems very quick. It seems very easy. But there are just going to be some times when maybe I want to draw my ceiling, okay? Get kind of more of a customized draw. So I can choose sketch ceiling also, click. And I can use my drawing tools. I'm going to use a square or a rectangle in this case. And I'm just going to draw my ceiling. There we go. I'm going to choose my ceiling type. Let's do the acoustic ceiling tile. Let's do a 2x2 acoustic ceiling tile. Height offset from level. Let's maybe make this 9 foot, enter, hit finish, and there's my ceiling type. Okay. I can edit and create a new ceiling type, just like I would any floor or wall type. I can tab, grab my ceiling, hit edit type, duplicate. We'll give it a new name. I'm just going to type new because I'm not sure how I'm going to define it. Hit edit and change something about it. Maybe we make it 6 inches in depth or thickness. Okay, okay, and there's my new ceiling type. Okay, so now when I pop into 3D, my floor plan is going to be a little bit obscured, right? Because I have these ceilings in there now, right? And they have lights, and my model is really becoming more complete, essentially. Okay. Let me go back to my ceiling, my main level ceiling plan here. You'll notice that my gypsum board ceiling doesn't have a pattern on it. That's going to be, I'm going to tab, click. I'm going to hit edit type on my ceiling type. I just don't have a hatch pattern associated with it. Structure, edit. The finish is gypsum wallboard. And to add a pattern to my ceiling, gypsum wallboard, I have my foreground pattern here. I can click and we could add, gypsum plaster. Okay, okay, okay. Oh no! Fatal error. That was odd. Huh. I wonder why that happened. Not to panic, right? I haven't had that happen for a long time. It at least asked me if I wanted to save a recovery file before it very impolitely closed, right? So now, let's see, where have I been saving this? Let's see here. Revit. I guess that's a good thing to look at, right? So something just happened. I got a fatal error, which we don't like. And it said, hey, would you like to save a recovery file before I turn you off? And I said yes. So my new file, my working file with the most complete work right now is this recovery file, right? Which is just cluttered up my entire Revit structure, right? I have my recovery file, I have my 3 backups, and then I have the working file that died, right? So the way I usually work with this is I open up this recovery file, click. And that will open up in a second. Hopefully. Okay, is it? Oh. Okay. Okay. So there's my recovery file, and because I don't like having a parenthesis with recovery in there, usually what I'll do is File, Save As, Project, and I'll save over the top of my last working file. So over Revit, Save, and it says, hey, would you like to replace it? Yes, because this is the most current one, even more current than that working file I just had. And then what I will do is go back and I will delete my recovery. So right click or just hit delete. right? And I do this immediately because I just like to keep my file structure very clean, and I don't want to be opening up files that aren't necessary. So that was good. Good little illustration of what happens during finals usually, right? When you're working on your final project the night before it's due. Okay, so I've added my ceilings. Oh, I think I was adding a pattern to my gypsum board when that happened. Let's hit edit type, edit the structure. I clicked on gypsum board, which is a material, and I just came here to the foreground surface pattern, clicked there, and gypsum plaster, okay, 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 okay again, and now I see kind of a pattern happening here. Okay. If I go into my sectional view again, right, I've placed these ceilings or I've let Revit place them at 9 feet, but if I wanted them to align with maybe a level, right, top of wall, I could have assigned these to top of wall if I wanted to. Now it's kind of outside of the boundary, it disappeared. I could also use a line, AL, and I can click on that level and I can align my ceiling to, you know, for example, that. AL, click, click, and I can align my ceilings in section, okay? I guess one thing I'm maybe trying to illustrate here is that, you know, you're really, if you've worked in CAD technology before, you know, Revit's a little bit different in that, you know, in AutoCAD, your sections and your elevations and your floor plans are all in separate files, right? So while you do have to go back and forth between them to coordinate them, it's not as dynamic as the Revit interface, right? So you'll see me constantly. I draw something, I pop into 3D, or I pop into an elevation view or a sectional view, and I perfect the things that I need to perfect, right? So I'm constantly moving through the model and I'm coordinating things, okay? I can hit undo because that's kind of a goofy ceiling, right? I can click on this ceiling and I could change it if I wanted to, but I think generally they look pretty good. Okay. To add a ceiling to my basement level now, I can go to my basement level, click, click. Oh, and I can't see anything yet. I'm going to change my scale immediately. I'm going to turn on an underlay here. Main level. I'm going to draw a ceiling in here. Ceiling, let's just do an auto ceiling. I'll make it easy. Oh, nope, I don't have any walls. There's nothing to automatically sketch, so I'm gonna have to sketch. I'll just create 1 or 2 ceilings in my basement. There's 1, there's 2. Now, ceilings function a lot like floors in that if you wanted to leave an opening in your ceiling, like in a professional or a commercial setting where, you know, there will be like one piece of ceiling around the perimeter and then another piece that drops down 2 feet in the center. Sometimes that happens. Right? I could do that, so I could leave a little island in there if I wanted to. I pop into 3D, and there are my little basement ceilings happening there. Okay. To edit these, we're probably getting a little bit redundant now because these things are the same as floors and different things, but click, click. I go into sketch mode, hit finish. I can click on it and select it and hit edit boundary as well. And if I wanted to leave an opening, for example, I could leave a little opening. Hit finish. There we go. Okay. All right. Any questions about ceilings? All right. Components. Now you guys are going to go component wild, going and finding all this good stuff that's out on the internet to put in your Revit models, right? All right. Let me look here at our... Let's go back to home. I'm going to reset that. Let's go to our assignments. So from now on, we are going to have, I have the ceiling assignment here. I'm going to publish that really quickly. Essentially, you're going to be adding ceilings to your Revit model, which is your Imbue cabin, okay? Which is also going to be moving towards your late term project, right? So anything that you do from now on it's an assignment, but it's also related to your late term project, right? So if you wanted to start working on your late term project and bump the walls out and start creating a second basement level, the lower level, doing that kind of thing, that would be fine with me. And if your ceilings reflect those changes, that's fine with me. But you do have an assignment to do a ceiling, but it's also inherent in your late term project. Okay. And your late term project, again, I just want to show you it is posted. So we have our ceilings, that's going to be due in a week, and then your late term project is down here. No, where is it? There it is, right there. Late term project. It's available until March 25th, so it will be due after spring break. Okay. Any other questions? You guys are quiet in the morning. Too early, I guess. Okay. All right.